All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Maddie, leading marketing here at Pathwork, and we are super excited to have you here for our fireside chat with the Highland Capital Brokerage team. So, just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. The conversation in total will be about an hour. It'll include two short discussions and then a 10-minute live Q&A at the end. So please feel free to drop any questions that you have for our speakers in the Q&A panel that you'll see in Zoom at the bottom at any point throughout the chat, and we will answer them at the end. And then, of course, we'll send you the recording after the session so you can revisit it or share it with your team. So as you can see, we have an absolutely stacked lineup of speakers today from Highland. Ian, our CEO, will moderate the first part of the chat with Shelly and Adnan, and Brandon, our head of revenue, will moderate part two with Lori and Michelle. So today's conversation is designed to be practical and honest, focused on what is actually happening inside underwriting and brokerage operations. So I really hope genuinely that you enjoy it and you get a lot out of it. And I encourage you to ask any questions that you have. So with that, I will hand it over to Ian to kick off a discussion on what's real versus what's hype when it comes to AI in the industry and lessons from Highland's modernization journey.
Thank you, Maddie, and thank you everyone for being here today. One thing we just want to lead off with is today will not be a product demo. Instead, what it's going to be is a real conversation between everybody here about how life, health, and annuities distribution work is changing, how technology is being used, and what's hard about adopting new technology, and what these teams are doing to keep up. What we hope to do is have great stories around challenges, trade-offs, and practical advice that everyone on the call or anyone listening to the recording can take back to your own team, regardless of any tools you're using today. So before we dive in, I'd love to quickly let Adnan and Shelley introduce themselves and give a quick overview of their role and what they focus on day to day. So Shelley, ladies first, please tell us about yourself.
Great. Thanks, Ian. Nice to be here today. So Shelley Bondurant, I'm the executive in charge of operations, underwriting, technology, and talent development. And I really love my job because I can work with a lot of great people, and we just have incredible people at Highland Capital Brokerage. And really, my day to day is around removing obstacles and then also aligning, not just in my downline, but the whole company aligning communication because we're mostly virtual as a company, and keeping folks on the same page and rowing in the same direction is really key and critical. That's how we take care of our customers at the end of the day.
Thanks,
Great,
Shelley.
Shelley. Yeah, and my name is Adnan Raja. I lead the digital transformation at Highland. In practice, that means connecting business strategy to technology investment. So our team focuses on modernizing the tools behind underwriting, operations, sales enablement, and distribution. A big part of my role is evaluating where technology can remove obstacles, friction, and where we can amplify the judgment, human judgment, our underwriters, case managers, our sales team, and their expertise can play a big role. And honestly, my day-to-day is a lot of listening to our pain points, to what's working and what's our team needs next.
Nice. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Adnan. So Shelley, we're going to start with you. So looking back at your experience, you joined Highland nearly 15 years ago. I mean, that's an amazing wealth of experience to really see how things play out and really see initiatives make an impact over a long time horizon. To help ground us, I'd love to hear a story about one of the first projects you ever worked on in Highland.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I joined about 15 years ago, and I came along as a project manager, and I was hired for a different part of the business. And we were in the midst of centralizing our broker contracting function, and it was not going well. It was pretty painful. We were maybe one third into the project. I was quickly redirected to temporarily own that function and help finish the centralization, kind of get it stable before we moved on to other things. We learned a lot in that. And a few years after that, we ended up centralizing our new business function. We had about 12 individual offices spread across the country that were all doing things their own, separate ways that they had done for years. And so we needed to create some scale. So the approach we took on the new business centralization, we really adopted more of a change management. We kind of injected change management into the process, and we went on a road show. We explained, what we're doing, why we're doing, what's in it for them, and did that again and again and again till I was doing it in my sleep. But it was really important because it allowed everybody to kind of connect, and I feel like we had a better outcome. It was less painful. It was still painful, but less painful. So
Nice. I love hearing that. What I always tell my team is my famous quote is change management. It's a thing. Yeah.
that should be on a t-shirt. That's great.
Yeah. So, fast forwarding to right now, what's a major project that the organization is undertaking at the moment?
Yeah, I would say twofold. Primarily our data. We care very much about leveraging our data and getting it to a place where we can report on it, make sure we're marketing appropriately, providing it to the salespeople to do their thing, and of course measuring. We measure everything. And so getting that data in a way, in a manner in which we can best utilize that's key. And I think the second thing is figuring out how we can best incorporate AI into the business in a safe and responsible way. There's a lot coming at everyone. Everyone has questions internally and even our customers, and trying to figure out the best way to leverage AI. That's part of what we're doing this year as well.
Nice. I'd love to hear that. So we love to compare and contrast. So thinking about that first project you mentioned to us, back in the early 2010s,
Yep.
and the projects you mentioned now around organizing your data and seeing where you can inject AI into workflows. Would love to hear what's different and what's the same when you think about technology transformation. And would love to just hear
Well,
you elaborate on that.
yeah, when I think about just everyone's everyday life in general, all of our attention spans have gotten shorter, and that translates over to technology, anything that we do at work. All the attention spans have gotten shorter in just a mere 10, 15 years. But I think it's also things move faster, and we have to be able to deliver value now as opposed to something that could have taken longer in the past. And so that, the scaled agile helps with that because you're delivering value every 2 weeks, theoretically. And so I think that the now is super is what has changed, the speed at which everything is changing. Um, what's the same is probably we all still have to gather requirements. You still have to hear from the customer, whether it's internal or external, and understand what their requirements are. That doesn't change. Maybe the method in which you do it changes, but ultimately you still have to do that. And when around underwriting specifically, we still need judgment, like personal judgment. We still need the key relationships with the carriers. The work still has to get done. The case advocacy still has to get done.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Every time I've led big projects in my career, one of the first things I was taught was this thing called pin the problem, which is you have to say like many times, like when discussions start going in different directions, you have to go back and be like, what problem are we actually solving here? And I think that's the thing I've seen, no matter as my career's changed, to make sure you actually understand the problem, so you know if you solve it, what the solution looks like.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
amazing. I'm sorry. I was
no,
just
please
going to
go
say,
ahead. Yeah.
it's amazing when it still surprises me, and I've been doing this for a long time, but it's really amazing when you get in a room and you ask people what are we trying to solve, and they all have a different angle.
Yeah.
It's typically never the same. And so that communication flow, that pinning the problem, exactly nailing down what that focus area is key for sure.
Thank you. So Adnan, I'm going to kick it over to you. You and I have had the awesome opportunity to get to know each other a lot better this year. I've really enjoyed our time together, and I
I'm
haven't
sorry.
heard, yeah, I haven't heard you yet complain about me. Um, maybe that will change after this. But to be real here, one thing I've always really admired about you, even from the first time we met, was you're an incredibly curious person. And every conversation you and I have, we always seem to go in a different direction and talk about what we're learning from other companies and other industries. So when you zoom out and you think about digital innovation as a whole, what patterns and trends do you hear keep coming up? And what other companies out there in our industry, outside of our industry, are you benchmarking?
It's a great question. And likewise, I enjoy getting to know you this past year. I think there's a lot of similarities and just brainstorming. It's been a pleasure to work with you, Brandon, and the team. Um, I think from a pattern standpoint, in regardless of the industry, not just our industry, not insurance, not financial services, what I'll echo what Shelley just said is the speed, the pace of work has shifted dramatically. I mean, faster than the systems behind that actually work. People are finding faster ways of doing things. Example, like, our sales folks are like, hey, we have an in-force ledger that it used to take me taking this in-force ledger and putting that into us into, comparatively in a tool like Base. I would have taken me manual work, but now with AI, you can do it much quicker, faster, Copilot AI use cases. So that's true in financial services, insurance, the speed has changed. What pattern that are clearly standing out, of course, workflow compression. That thing that took A, B, C, D, can we go to A to D faster, quicker? Maybe
Yeah,
we don't need B and C in the middle. So that has definitely has a big pattern that we're seeing. Human in the loop automation. So we've seen companies that are, or use cases, especially with automation, digital transformation, work really well when you're not replacing people, but you're augmenting them with the technology. So that has been a pattern that we're seeing, at least in our industry. And then designing our systems for adaptability, not perfection. So companies that are winning, at least they're quickly rolling these things out. Again, coming back to our point number one, which is the speed and pace. And you see every other week, I think hey, today there's a new model coming out of OpenAI, and then Google Gemini has a new model that's going to blow everything up. So pace of change, especially not just from AI standpoint, it's happening in front of us. Thing that maybe 3 weeks ago, that technology could be outdated. So just keeping up with the system that are designed to be more adaptable, I think that's the pattern that we're seeing. And then to your last question about benchmarking to outside, companies, of course, we're looking at digital health and, how can we get that data summarized faster, quicker for our underwriters to review. We're also looking at fintech solution for compliance. So as we bring in more automation, it brings in complexity. We want to make sure we're compliant, our advisors are compliant, but they have the right disclosure and the output that they're presenting to their clients. And then some of the things that we're looking outside is just logistics of workflow orchestration, like how can we do things better, faster, going to our point number one. And then productivity, like small operation side, can we do notes? And I think everyone has seen Teams and Zoom notes capability where it used to take you quite a long time to say, okay, what are our next steps? What are we doing next?
yeah,
Now AI can do that in seconds. I think just making sure that those things are built into our processes, workflows, and making us more productive, I think is the things that we're bringing in. And I think
amazing.
those
Yeah.
industries, especially when you talk about these open AI, they're maybe a few years ahead of us from a term of volume and model and building out. But insurance is quickly catching up. I think this is our time to leapfrog. Normally, we are running 5, 10 years behind the new tech. I think we can leapfrog ahead um, of these legacy processes and system and improve and at least get to the same endpoint where other companies are or ahead of them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Adnan. I think we share a lot of the same first principles, and I think we've spoken about this before. It's like, if you really break down these models and what they're capable of, it's like they're incredible at summarization. They're incredible at taking on work tasks. They're amazing at writing software code, And I don't know about anybody else, but I can't write as fast as some of these large language models spit out information. So yeah, they're truly amazing new pieces of technology we're all very excited about. So we're about to actually share a stat on the screen. Maddie, if you can pull it up. We haven't put this out in the wild yet, but what we did is we ran a survey, I want to say about a week and a half ago, of all of our Pathwork customers and just asked them a very simple question, which was like, outside of Pathwork, do you use an AI chatbot for any tasks at work? So, and then we had a second follow-up question was, which commercial solutions are you using for that? And people could select more than one. So I was really excited about asking this question because one thing my hypothesis has been, I think there's some stat that's like 10% of the world now has a subscription to some large language model chatbot. So I was like, what's going on in our industry? So as you can see here on the left, more than 62% of our customers, again, that's the sample size or sample survey base we had, are already using AI technology at work. And you can see on the right, this is the distribution of some of the solutions they're using. So I think it's pretty clear to say that if you're in a conversation or working with anybody in our industry, they're most likely using these tools in their work. So it's definitely out there. Everyone's using it. Let's assume that. But from your seat, Adnan, your top 10 life and annuity BGA in the space, what are the use cases that you all have identified where you want to inject AI and think about innovation? And then for what you can share, what's live today? What are you guys using?
No, that's a great question. I think as a top 10 BGA, by the way, Copilot, I think makes it so much easier because of the boundaries and the compliance uh, guardrail that it provides to companies that are on the Microsoft platforms. Of course, that's a big tool that we use and utilize as well. As a top 10 BG, as you mentioned, our bar for deploying AI and that any piece of digital transformation technology is high. We focus on use cases that will help us reduce time, so show ROI. So when I take that project or the idea or use case, first question from our leadership is, okay, what's the ROI? Why are we just doing it for an automation purposes, or is there a cost saving or time saving or reduced cycle time? Of course, we are focusing on accuracy because there are, human mistakes happen. Are there ways we can do in a proper way of AI deployed that actually has more accuracy than human? Um, can we increase our compliance phase using technologies, using AI use cases? So, and then just what can we add new value to our agents that today they may not have available to them? So those are kind of our big areas of focus that from a use cases we are prioritizing. Now, so far, what we have done or at least implemented, I think with Pathwork partnership, we have implemented our APS summarization, our underwriter tool. That is a significant plus. And I don't want to take any limelight from Lori and Michelle. They'll talk more about it. Um, just looking at how can we extract some of the condition level from those APS summarization is an exciting stuff. Some of the use cases we are looking and discussing, like can we get producer insights from a distribution support side? We're talking about chatbots. Can we create a AI chatbot that can be available to them 24/7 so they don't have to wait to talk to someone on the phone? We even talked and discussed like outbound AI sales support calls. Can we use now the technology is advanced enough? Like you can't even tell it's not human that's actually calling. A good story is my neighbor who is a dentist. We were having a discussion and we both play cricket, and he was like, Adnan, I don't know what I'm going to do with my front desk staff because he has deployed an AI, basically an intake scheduler that's calling out the appointments to the clients, setting those up. It shows up in the system on the Google Calendar. He knows his appointments. So he's really is debating out of the three people at his front desk that used to call the insurance, calling the scheduler. So he's going to keep the person that's still calling the insurance because there's a lot of discussion happens with the insurance companies with the claims. But the front desk staff that were just doing the schedule, he's like, I need to either uptrain them and either help out as a dental assistant because I don't have a role for them at the front desk. So that's
Hmm.
what we're seeing. I think those are things that now we can do. We're also expanding and looking at, are there ways we can do logic engine where we can have carrier selection or a pathway, a triaging our advisor based on their needs and recommend the path forward for them. So those are all the things that we're considering and prioritizing and bringing that live today.
Nice. And Adnan, I love hearing that. Sounds like, just to recap some of the use cases, no mystery. Our two companies have partnered and working together. So that's one avenue. Sounds like you're starting to work a little bit on the kind of sales support, immediate upfront work there, some initiatives around compliance. A few minutes ago, maybe just quickly, you mentioned ROI as one of the first criteria whenever you're evaluating a new vendor or new technology. Just quickly tell us, what else is in the rubric? What do you have to evaluate? What do you have to go through to make sure, yeah, this is something we're going to move forward with?
That's a good question. So we have a pretty structured approach, like a checklist. Of course, are we, I think Shelley mentioned, are we solving the right problem with the business use case? Is this framework is the right framework that we're evaluating our tech that we're introducing, whether it's an AI use case or even a new technology that we bring in? So of course, getting that very structured framework is important, especially when you are debating, hey, is this just a hype or actually brings
Mhm.
in an ROI? Answering your question, of course, the business value, the ROI, is it adding some accuracy, the time savings? Does it improve our productivity? All those things are part of our rubric as we evaluate these. Big two ones are level of effort
Yep.
and the impact.
Yeah.
We have this spreadsheet, every
Famous
use
two by
case
two.
is
Everybody's got that, right?
those
Yeah.
are easy
Yeah.
to get to. And even if you have high, medium, low, add a value from one scale of 1 to 5,
Yeah.
you can really quickly kind of see what should be prioritized at a higher level.
Nice. Love that. So, Shelly, I'm going to kick this question over to you. Maybe this is a tough one, but we're going to ask for the dirt on this. What's an initiative that you all tried recently that maybe didn't go as expected, didn't work, and we'd love to hear what you would have done differently. One thing I always tell my team is if we aren't taking on projects where a fraction of them fail, then we aren't trying hard enough. We're not working on hard enough things. So, would love to hear, Shelly, what's something that you all tried internally recently and maybe just wasn't able to get it into production.
Um, we we had a tool. We actually did get it ultimately in production. It actually launched earlier this month, around life
Congratulations. Yeah.
concepts and sales concepts for the different product lines. But we tried to do it internally and write it internally. A lot of our tech resources, as in most firms, have kind of ebbed and flowed over the years. And I always like to have a certain amount of contract work done to absorb that ebb and flow of the work needed. But this life concepts, gosh, this tool had gone, it was great back in the day, and then it was really super dated. And we kept trying to resurrect it internally and kind of save money to do it. And oh, it was just awful. But we found the right partner, the vendor, to help us with that. And
Yep.
they did it, and they wrote it in such a way that it allowed us to configure easily and add additional sales concepts. And we just recently had our annual sales kickoff with all of our salespeople and launched it and it's phenomenal now. But we had definitely stumbled for probably a good 8, 9 years around
Oh,
that tool because it just kept falling off the plate or being on the corner of someone's desk and no one was really focused on it. So the two things we did was partner with a great vendor and made it somebody's main job. And now he's the go-to person. He's on the technical side, and he's on the business side, technical, and he's the go-to person, and launched it last week. So it's pretty good.
nice. Congratulations.
Thanks.
8 to 9 years shows a lot of resiliency. So,
Yeah, not
yeah.
not our favorite for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to be cognizant of the time. As Maddie mentioned, this is a two-part webinar that we're doing. I do want to end with a few rapid fire questions for Adnan and Shelley. So I've got about 3 to 5 that we'll go through. And goal is for these to be really short, really quick, and then I'll hand things over to Brandon to speak to Michelle and Lorianne. So I want you both to finish this sentence. If a vendor ever says blank, I immediately pump the brakes. Shelley, you first.
If they say anything about questioning their ability to deliver on the time frame they suggested, I pump the brakes.
And I would say if the vendor ever say, "Hey, don't worry about the details, just trust the process or trust this model,"
Yeah.
that is a red flag to us as well, and definitely pump the brakes on those conversations.
Uh, I will interject my own. My favorite is it'll get worse before it gets better.
Nobody wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear that
You're
one.
already solving a problem that's painful, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right, next one up. What is your white whale on the one thing you want to solve in our industry? Adnan, you first.
I mean, data, I think Shelley brought it up. That's our focus. So closing the data gap between carriers, BGAs, advisors, and data. When I say data, it's your pending case feeds, your in-force feeds, your commission feeds. I think there's such a big gap between multiple carriers, the way their systems work and what our advisors need or the BGA's needs are. There's a huge gap today, and I think that would be my white whale to solve.
And I would say grow the pie for everyone because there are so many underinsured. It's unbelievable. I saw a stat from 2024, 51% of Americans have some type of life insurance policy, and 41% of that group feel like they are underinsured. But it's so daunting for them to get more coverage. They feel like it's going to be more expensive. Then they don't know the facts. We have overcomplicated it as an industry. And
Yep.
I feel like we could really, I don't know how to do it, but we need to figure out how to educate and grow the pie.
I love hearing that. So, very last one, maybe this one will be the funniest. What's the one thing you should never say to a sales agent, Shelley?
I would just say taking the tone of being dismissive about their business
Yeah.
or their time because they're very valuable and it's easy if they happen to not agree with what we think they should say. You know, all of it matters. The question is, can you solve their problem? Maybe not,
Yep.
but don't be dismissive.
Yeah, and likewise, I would say if just telling the sales agent, "Oh, give me a couple of weeks or a month," because speed is the expectation now. I think we can't tell our advisor, "Okay, let me think about it," or "Let me try to solve this. I'll come back to you next month or in 2 weeks." I think we need to be quicker, faster in finding solution to their ask, to their needs.
Thanks. Well,
Sorry,
that's
not that
gonna
funny responses, but
No, you
more
guys,
practical.
honestly, we are more authentic and more honest. So for everyone, that's going to conclude my session. I just do want to leave with a few takeaways before I hand the mic over to Brandon. Uh, One thing I think I was hearing from both Shelley and Adnan throughout this is it really comes back to first principles. You need to understand what the problem is you're trying to solve, and you need to find great partners out there that also understand the problem you have and do they have the capabilities and solutions to solve it. And it really comes back to the people. We're a very relationships driven industry, and you need to understand all the different roles and stakeholders to make sure change happens and change proliferates in the business. So thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day. Brandon, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Ian. That was a lot of fun. Adnan, Shelley, thanks so much. Um, Everybody, we had a great session talking about at the enterprise level, what does transformation look like, which was great to hear. Now we're getting into when strategy hits the desk inside underwriting operations. So over the next few minutes, we're going to talk about a handful of things. We're going to be thinking about like what has fundamentally changed over the last 12 to 18 months. As we all have alluded to in this conversation, a lot is moving very quickly. What's possible now with high value work, right? There was a lot of triaging and work in the insurance space because admin, duplicate data entry, those type of items were expected and demanded inside the workplace. that is evolving now with technology? And then how does this create leverage inside the team, so you can capitalize on the most impactful work each individual can do? So we're going to hear from Lori and Michelle in the next few minutes, talking about real life scenarios, which we're really excited about. Before we jump in, love to get just a quick background from both our speakers. Lori, why don't you kick it off?
Sure. I'm Lori M. Walker, and I have actually been in the industry for an enormous amount of years. I'm not going to say my whole my whole experience, but I've been at multiple GAs. I started my career actually with a disability at a carrier, and I have now been at Highland for 10 months. And I am the VP in chief, and I share that with Michelle, and we actually work very closely together on an abundance of things at Highland, and strategy and innovation, and looking for new ideas, bigger and better ways to do things. That's sort of what our focus has been as well, to make our team, to increase our team and increase the production that goes with our team.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Michelle, you want to take it away?
Sure. Michelle Konski, VP and Chief Underwriter, along with Lori. I've been at a couple of carriers before Highland, but I spent the last 21 years at Highland. And yes, Lori and I work really closely together. We're trying to improve all our processes and bring underwriting to the next level at Highland, and make us set an example in the industry.
Love that. And let's dive right in. So, kicking it off, and Michelle, why don't you take this one first, and we'll pass it back to you, Lori, as well. Let's talk about the core priorities in the underwriting division today, and what are some of the pain points that are really that you're really gravitating to trying to solve?
So our priority really as a whole in underwriting, as Highland as a whole, to pay for cases, right? Like, we want to get the case through underwriting and pay for it, right? And move on to the next one. Our pain points were always, and we don't actually do that. Like, APS retrieval is one of the pain points of underwriting. But once we get the APSs, historically, that's what takes the longest, right? That's where the pain point was. Now, okay, we have a large case or even a smaller case, 1,500 pages. That's a pain point right now, because if it's a priority case, then we got to drop everything and now look at this case. Past life, couple days at least to look at those records before we can have an idea of what's going on, right? But just because you want to make sure that you covered everything. Today's life, different, right? Because we can take a 1,500 page APS and put it on a Pathwork and get a reply in about 10, 15 minutes. That's a huge time saving, right? Because at this point, I know what's going on in my case. I know what I can do, what I need to do, what comes next, and then we can move on to the next thing. So obviously efficiency, and we probably will dive in more into the efficiencies of the product, but this is how I see it, and this allows me as an underwriter not to waste too much time and put my spin on the case, the personalization, anything that I need to point out with the help of technology.
Love that. Thanks, Michelle. And Lori, passing it over to you. And Michelle highlighted a few of these things, which was previously the complexity of running through 1,500 pages, or low face amount, high page volume, the challenges that happen. Talk us through what life looked like 12, 18 months ago when you got a 1,000-page APS, or you got a low face amount case with a handful of pages, and you need to give it the time it deserves, but you also have to be relative to the revenue that's providing to the business. So I'd love to hear how you think about those last 12 to 18 months and how that's evolved, Lori.
I mean, listen, let's go back to prehistoric ages, right? When there were files on your desk and they were paper files, and you had to go through everything and you had to write down everything from a paper file. And then that actually was expanded eventually, where we, had paperclip, could image things and look at them that way, but you still had to go through things page by page. You still had to go through summaries. Then years ago, probably 10 years ago, with some of the big APSs that we got and the time service that it actually took, because as brokerage entities, or even if you're at a carrier and you're doing underwriting, the difference is you're doing multiple things every day. You're answering the phone, you have emails. Like, it's not like we are just sitting at our desk, just reading APSs, summarizing those and going through that. You're doing different things at different times. So if you got a 1,500 page APS back in the day, if you were the one doing it, that could potentially, between phone calls, emails, all your other workload, that really could take 3 or 4 days. We then, had the idea to offshore some of this information and send records offshore. When we did that, it still was a process that could take 3 to 4 days. A lot of times, there were technology capabilities where if you had a 1,500 page APS, as an example, you couldn't even upload that. Like, you sometimes had issues even sending it. And then you had to wait for that summarization to come back. Look, we've always still had the human element involved. We will still have the human element involved with AI, because you still want to make sure that there's not a false narrative going on. But back when we sent it overseas, there was also a language barrier sometimes. So you even got APSs back in those days where there would be questionable things that you had to go through and you had to recheck. But even then, we could go to pages, but it just wasn't as easy and as quick and as efficient as it seems like it is now to be able to do that. So I do look at it like AI is growing, it's going so quickly, but at the same respect, we're also making sure that the tool that we do have, it's getting bigger and better with every single usage and every informational input and output. It's creating a better space and a better experience.
Love hearing that. And if I summarize some of those pieces, we started from a 1,500 page APS that was maybe 3 or 4 days of singular focus outside of the calls and emails you have to do your day to day, to how do we solve this offshore, language barriers, still reviewing the summary, the 3 to 4 day timeline, to now we're at a point where, don't want to call it near real time, but a very quick delivery of an impact for an APS. So Michelle, questions to you on that is, now we've collapsed that time. Highland has been able to collapse that time to drastically reduce it from, let's call it 4 days to 15 minutes. What does that open up for you and the underwriting team? And not just speed. Speed's great, but like, how does it effectively make you do your job better, build better cases, tell a better story? Love to hear about your perspective there.
So, I mean, we have spoken about this so many times, but our world is going and becoming less and less personalized. So what we're doing at Highland, we're bringing more personalization into our world, because we are in a relationship business, right? So it's not to write a summary, anybody can write, but what do we do with that summary when that comes in? When the time saving that creates gives me and Lori and everybody on our team more time to do what we're good at. What we're good at is pointing out what's good and making the carrier underwriter see the case the way I see it, right? It gives me time to put down a good cover letter explaining what I have, where I'm going. In addition to that, now we can continue to grow our team, right? We do much more training to the underwriting team. We do training internally. We are sharing everything that we have in our tool belt with the people at our company. In addition to that, we can sit on calls like this, because when you're doing work, like, sometimes there's no time for these things, because the ultimate goal is really to pay for cases. So it opens it to a variety of things, but most important in my eyes is the personalization of our cases and the presentation of our cases.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I'm going to keep another question to you, and I think it goes on this trajectory, and a little bit we talked about with Lori just a minute ago, which is, dedication, personalization. There's a lot of individuals on this call, and I'm sure you all feel this as well, that every producer matters to the firm, and that means every case of that producer matters. So these small cases, or smaller face amounts. Let's talk about how you've been able to go from having to deprioritize to be able to giving them a level of personalization and touch that maybe just wasn't possible 12 months ago.
So that's a great point. Like you said, I mean, we look, everybody is important, like you said, but at the same, and we definitely want to make them feel important, right? So I personally work based on revenue, right? Like whatever creates the most revenue comes to the top of the line. But with that being said, we can have a great producer that we're working on a case for their son or their nephew. I mean, there's not really a lot of money, but we still want to give them a service. With the new technology, if we have a large APS or even like a couple of small APSs that like normally we'll put aside, the summarization helps, right? Because we put the case on the system. A few minutes later, we have what we know. We already know what we're talking about, so we can return the call. We can return an email. We can do anything that we need to do in minutes. So yes, we can prioritize a small case at the same time while working on a large case because of the time saving. So
I'm hearing that. Yeah, that's great. Great insight. Lori, heading over to you. We spoke. It's been a little while now, but there was something that we took away, which is when you're building a case for a carrier, you're trying to find the best possible outcome for that individual, and you're looking for the gold, right? The nuggets that are really impactful in that APS. So, tell us about how technology has enabled you to build a better personalized story, the Lori story that you need to tell to the carriers by using technology that maybe wasn't as attainable or provided or required a lot of resources prior.
I mean, for me, look, the AI summarization that we get back, and we have the ability to click on all of the pages that we need, which is great. It gives us a detailed summary on all of the impairments that are important that we need to look at. The biggest tool, though, really, which is the AI generated tool, is the chat with files tool, because that's where, for me, I look for the very pertinent pieces that are going to make my case a case that could be questionable, could be a case that I could then sell. And I'm looking for keywords, and I'm putting that in the chat with files, and that time saver, especially if I've got a big APS. Back in the day, I used to have to look through every page to do that. Well, now I don't have to do that. If I prompt that and do the chat with files, then I can have all of the pages that might have certain information on a mammogram. I can have all the pages that come up in the entire APS. That is such a time saver if you have all those pages. Like that is gold to me at the end of the day. And then I can make my story on the case and fight that with the positives and the pros and the cons, and then make sure that we're getting the best offer possible. So I utilize that tool all the time. It is something that I think takes us to the next level with AI. That's the growth on AI, and that's only going to get bigger and better, and going to help us in the long run with our entire team too.
Because you know what to search for typically in most APSs or medical records. You're able to identify those nuggets, those gold nuggets very quickly, instead of skimming 500 pages, which is impossible for anybody to potentially grab everything they need out of it. Makes total sense. Lori, to you, and this is something I think a lot of people on this call feel. I think a lot of us have felt, whether that was 24 months ago when AI came, or it's last week when they first tried AI, which is changing the way you work and insisting on doing it the way you have because it's worked for you and you feel comfortable with it. What's your
Well, I
advice
think,
for people? Yep.
yeah, sorry, go ahead, Brendan.
No, yeah, just what's your advice for people to kind of break down that wall and say, how do I find the balance and how do I stay competitive? How do I still stay to my roots on what I do to provide value in the industry? But also, how do I adopt the reality of where the industry is going?
Yeah, look, I mean, the one thing that's constant is change. That's something that's always going to happen. So you do need to learn in order for our business to grow, develop, us to do the best job possible. You have to grow with that change. So we're not saying in any way that AI is taking over. It's going to replace myself and Michelle and our team. But what we're using it to is as a tool to enhance our business and make sure that what we're doing every day is better and stronger. And it allows in the growth of the individuals. Like, we haven't even talked about younger individuals coming into our business and how AI actually can help them grow. And we utilize those tools consistently in order for us to do that. We're still using the human element. We're still we're still looking for the gold nuggets that are going to make our case glowing when we send something to a carrier or have a conversation. We're still using all of that, but AI is here. All this development and change and the growth, that is here now. You have to be able to embrace that and do a happy medium on how you incorporate it in your production, because otherwise you're going to get left behind and you're not going to be able to flourish and grow in your business models because it is here and it's allowing you to grow even bigger and better and stronger. And that's what we're utilizing it for. So, and we're going to continue to look at that and look at different ways to do our business in the most effective way possible. And the end result is revenue and time service.
Amazing. We're just almost at time. I want to breeze through two or three more questions really quickly. Some of the points you alluded to, Lori. Michelle, I'm going to go to. I would assume there's a lot of independent firms on this call, boutique BGAs, and so this is a consolidation of a couple questions. One, how in your perspective, what's the crawl in the crawl walk one strategy, a smaller firm that maybe doesn't have the same capabilities or resources that Highland has to bring on new tech? Like, how do you think about implementing technology, and then couple that with some of Lori's comments, Michelle, of like training and earlier talent, and how can enable you to bring up resources in a more lean environment?
So the first thing you have to figure out, like, what's important. What is important to you in your business, right? And then back to what you were talking to Lori about, like we always wanted to be so effective and so to the point. Like that's why we were rating every page, right? We used to do that. Like we want to make sure that we're accurate, we're not missing anything. At this point, it's like we can have a machine do this for us, right? Like why do I have to sit there and just look at every page? We will check it. We will definitely check it to make sure that it's accurate. But at the same time, I don't want to spend all this time doing the things that someone can help me, right? Like, so let's find what's out there that can help us and utilize that. As far as new people that come to the industry, yeah, this is there. It's a great tool. Like even when you look like the chat with files, as Lori says, I mean, we use it all the time. You're looking for pathology. Sometimes someone doesn't even know what it looks like. They can chat with file, and then the pathology comes in. Or you're looking for an A1C, like you want to look at a timeline. It brings it to you. So I mean, obviously we need to train, but with less training, um, a new hire can learn and they can go on the system and play with it, right? Ask the questions, I got a guy person that gives you an idea of where the case is going to rate. So to just summarize that is for small GA, what's important? Like what's more important to you? Do you want to move faster? You want to stay accurate? You want to make sure you train? I mean, you got to find what's your problem, and then you go and look for a solution, and solutions are out there. If you're not doing it, then what's going to happen is if you're going to do everything the way you used to do, by the time you get your case to the carrier, I already have an offer. So that's really, at the end of the day, that's what counts. And no one wants to wait anymore. We're in a world that everybody's like used to instant gratification. So a day sometimes makes the difference.
Yeah, it does. I was going to say too, like, you know, when you're training individuals, when we go back to education and training, when you're training individuals, especially in underwriting, um, uh, if someone hasn't done it before, as an example, but wants to get into it, you know, it's something so simple as is doing a summary. They don't know what to pick out and what's pertinent. Even with this tool, especially for smaller BGAs, this tool gives them the pertinent information and what's important in summarization already. So that alone is a huge training tool without having somebody have to sit with them and not do their work and cause more timeline or more money to the company because they have to sit with them physically and train them. They can put the tool in, they can get the summarization, and then they can have a conversation once it's already done. So that's huge too.
Yeah, this was great, great dialogue. I would summarize, but I actually want to toss it over to Q&A so we can get some questions answered before everyone wraps up for the last 5 or 6 minutes. Lori, Michelle, that was awesome. Great context of the industry and how you all are evolving at Highland. Ian and Maddie, I'll pass it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. That was great. To all our speakers, really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insights. So now is the time for questions. Please send any that you have been thinking about or, anything that you're wondering about. No stupid questions, no questions we won't accept. So please do send them in. We had a couple actually follow-up questions for you, Lori and Michelle. So I'll go ahead and kick those off. How much of the summary from AI do you include in the cover letter to a carrier?
Michelle, I'll take this one. Well, actually, when you partner with good people, what happens is you're always having conversations with those individuals on a consistent basis. So when we pick a vendor on multiple things, and relationships are a huge, huge plus for us and somebody that we can work with. So at Highland, we are consistently talking to Brandon and Ian and your team and looking at new ways to develop. They actually now have a new cover letter that just kicked off that we have looked at. And it's actually really, really good. And when we talk about education and we talk about somebody that might not know how to write an effective cover letter, that tool is actually now incorporated in your summarization. You can utilize that. I tend to, a lot of times, there's some additional information. I may have financials to put in, some additional information that I may know about the client that may come from the advisor. So some of that information might be great, but the actual medical information, Pathwork actually has that tool to create a cover letter, and it's already created for you. You can put 1035 information and product information on the side, and that will incorporate the letter automatically as well. It actually looks really good.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lori. Great. Another question, actually, this kind of speaks to what you were just talking about, Michelle, about the instant gratification. Is this changing how, producers expect results? How quickly, instantaneous, like they're expecting results from you and the carriers? How is that impacting that?
So, I mean, the client, so being in this world for so long, and you guys will see, like, there are certain expectations from different parts of our country, right? If you're in the Northeast, everything had to be yesterday. If you're in California, a little bit more lax, Midwest, a little bit different, but everybody is different. I don't know that producers have expected. I don't know that they know yet. Like we are not telling them what we're doing. We're just producing better results and everybody's happy with that. But I don't know that they are aware of it yet. I feel like it's coming for them to say, but I don't need to tell my producer that I use an AI summarization, right? Because my work is still the work, right? Like what I do still remain the same, other than it took my busy work out of my day. I think it's gonna come, but it's not, from what I see, it's not here yet.
Totally makes sense. Awesome.
Maddie, I'm seeing a couple others that came in. Let me see if we can get one more. Somebody from the crowd asked, Lori, Michelle, how long did it take you to truly stop reviewing the medical records and trust the system? What did that look like? I remember it well, but would love to hear from your experience.
I mean, I feel like it was fast.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I do. We were up and running. We looked at it again. We had conversations. We found some errors, and when we went through certain things, we found some errors. We found some false narratives. It's who you partner with and how quick those are fixed. Which for us, I mean, literally. And I'm not just saying this as partners. I think the biggest thing is I hate when people say, when you were asking the IT thing, yeah, okay, when you want to change, they'll say, okay, I'll put it on my list. I've never heard that from you guys, right?
Thank
So
you.
we did the EKG and talked about, hey, it'd be a really good idea if we could possibly read EKGs, if you could have the tool, but know that you have to read the actual tracings and you can't read the typed part in the corner. We worked on that together to hopefully get a better EKG reading. So I feel like the partnership for us was so great that it was really immediate. I use the chat with files. I will say I use that a lot. That to me is your secondary check. That tool is the best. We haven't even talked about the comparison tool with the carriers that you do have that gives you ranges on the offers. So if you're somebody that really is newer and you really don't know some of the carriers, it kind of gives you a tool and gives you a range. It's not going to give you the exact offer, but it does at least give you a starting point. Every time we go into the tool, it's growing, it's developing as we are as well. So I feel like it was very quick and very seamless.
Thank you so much. For those questions we weren't able to get to, we apologize. We tried to pack as much as we could into the hour, so we want to be thoughtful of everybody's time. There's just one last thing we want to put up. Maddie, if you want to switch over to that slide. So one thing, just at the very end, as Lorianne and Michelle mentioned, one thing that we've run since the very beginning of the company, if anybody would love to try the tool, we always allow any customer 30 days to trial it. It's a money back guarantee. For those of our customers that are on this call, if you're already a beloved customer of ours, we have a very unique referral program. We send anyone you refer to us as a peer, we love to send you out to dinner to your favorite restaurant in your local town. We've done that since we started the company. So please, anybody, referrals are the lifeblood of our business. I want to say thank you to Shelly, Adnan, Lorianne, Michelle, Brandon, Maddie. Thank you all so much for your time. For everybody that joined us live, thank you for listening. For those listening to the recording, thank you as well too. And I hope everybody has a great day and a very, very productive high placement rate 2026. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much, everyone. Have a great day.